5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Susan Downing, Chair of the Committee. I will shortly ask all members of the committee to introduce themselves and state the ward that they represent. For members of the public who will be addressing the committee this evening, the procedure for determining each application has been published on the Council's Committee Management Information, along with a notice regarding the broadcast and recording of the meeting. Before we start the meeting, there are a few important housekeeping rules to explain.
Chair, can you just pause 1 second, please?
I'm sorry, committee, if you just bear with us, we have a technical problem we're trying to sort out at the minute.
All right, sorry.
Speaking of this meeting remains at my discretion as chair, and only those people who have registered in advance to speak will be allowed to. All participants must keep their microphone on mute until invited to speak by me. This helps to avoid interference from background noise. The Democratic Service Officer will mute all microphones if it becomes necessary. When invited to speak, members and officers must turn their cameras on. Members of the public addressing the committee may choose to leave their cameras off if they do not want their image recorded. Members and officers must use the raise hand function to indicate that you want to speak. If you do not have this function on your device, please instead type a Q into the meeting chat. The meeting chat is strictly for members and officers' use only. Anyone using the chat without permission may be removed from the meeting. If at any point the meeting becomes incoherent due to technical problems, I will adjourn the meeting whilst the issues are resolved. Should there be any technical issues that affect the broadcast of this meeting, I will again adjourn whilst the issues are resolved. Should any member lose connection during the meeting, they will not be allowed to vote on the application under discussion at that time. I will now open the meeting and hand over to the Democratic Service Officer to announce apologies for absence under agenda item 1 and ask each committee member to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't received any apologies for absence. Could you introduce yourself and the ward that you represent, please?
Councillor Susan Downing, Albury Ward.
Councillor Heavycan?
Sandra Heavycan, Tividale Ward and Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed?
Councillor Zahur Ahmed, St Paul Ward.
Councillor Allen?
Yeah, Councillor Pease Allen, Greybridge Ward.
I don't think Councillor Chidley's with us today. Councillor Sharon Davis? You're on mute, Councillor.
Councillor Sharon Davis.
Can you hold your mic up a bit closer?
Councillor Sharon Davis, Langley Ward.
That's better, thank you. Councillor Dallow?
Councillor Dalu, Western Central Ward.
I don't think Councillor Gill's with us today. Councillor Pamela Hughes? Councillor Hughes, are you there? Councillor Hughes, your microphone's on mute. I'll come back to it. Councillor Hussain?
Councillor Mushtaq Hussain from Albury.
Councillor Jones?
Councillor Ian Jones, Tipton Green Ward.
Councillor Mabina?
Mr. Mabina, Lakewood Ward.
Councillor Miller?
Councillor Kate Miller, Hazeley Heath Ward.
Councillor Ralph? Councillor Ralph, are you there?
Yeah, Councillor also Victoria Ward.
Councillor Sims?
Councillor Pamela Sims, Fire Park Ward.
Thank you. And Councillor Pamela Hughes?
Hello.
Hello. You put your mic on mute again.
Oh, sorry.
That's it. We can hear you now. Thank you.
Councillor Pam Hughes, Westbury South Ward.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Do any members have interest to declare of any of the matters before the committee today?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Dallow.
Yeah. Application DC. Application DC stroke 20 stroke 64505.
That's not on the agenda. That is being taken off the agenda today, Councillor Dallow, for deferral.
Okay, thanks.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Any more declarations? Take that as none then. Are the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of August moved as a correct record?
Aye.
Councillor Ian Jones. And may I have a seconder, please?
Yeah.
I'll second that, Chair.
Are there any objections? None? Do I have the consensus of the committee that the minutes are an accurate record?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. As I've just mentioned, planning application DC/20/64505, proposed development of 13 dwellings, Brook Road, open space, Wolverhampton Road, Albury, has been withdrawn from this evening's agenda at the applicant's request. Following application is DC/20/64395. Proposed two-storey side and rear extension at 4 Michael Road, Smethwick. No members have indicated that they have been lobbied on this application. John, do you have any updates to report on this application, please?
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. No, Chair, nothing to add to the recommendation. It still is one of approval, subject to the subsequent approval of external materials. Thank you.
We don't have anyone registered to speak, John, but is there anyone from Highways or Public Health that needs to address the committee?
Chair, no, unfortunately this evening we haven't got anybody from Highways. There's been other issues that have arisen today. So Robin, the head of Highways, Robin Weir, who usually attends, unfortunately can't be with us this evening. But Robin and his colleagues have gone through each of the remaining applications on the agenda, and we do have their comments. As regards this application, Highways did have some initial concerns that there was insufficient off-street parking, given that the number of bedrooms at the property has been increased. But they've had a subsequent look at the proposal in some detail, and they've come back to us, and they've said that there is some parking provided on site, but additionally, Michael Road itself, there is a large degree of on-street parking there available. So on that basis, they've raised no objections in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do any members of the committee have any questions? The committee will now move to debate the application. Any questions at all?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Ahmed's got his hand up.
Councillor Ahmed?
There was one sort of objection or letter was sent out from neighbours concerning fences and all that. Just on a brief update on that regard, John, please.
Can I ask you to repeat that?
I'm sorry. Sorry, Councillor Ahmed, would you mind repeating that, please? We were having difficulty hearing you.
I think one of the neighbours has raised a concern regarding the fences or some materials, and I think could John brief on that, please, as well?
Chair, if I may come in there, yes, Councillor Ahmed, you're quite right. Within the officer's report, I think it's paragraph 6.2, reference is made to the objection the comment we've received. It does relate to boundary issues. Really, it's beyond the scope of this application that's been raised, and they need to be dealt with under the party war legislation, Councillor. So we've got no particular concerns there. I think it relates to historic issues regarding the boundary between the application property and a neighbouring property as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Councillor Allen. Councillor Allen?
Hello. On the basis of obviously what we've heard so far and the issue that we can't deal with as party wall, I'd like to move approval of this application as laid out in the recommendation in the papers today.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Councillor Dallow. We'll now hand over to Democratic Services to take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is planning permission is granted subject to the approval of external materials. Chair, are you voting for, against or abstaining?
For.
Councillor Heavican, for, against or abstain?
For.
Councillor Ahmed? Councillor Allen moved the recommendation. Councillor Sharon Davies? Your microphone's off. She's saying 4. We can't hear you very well, Councillor. Councillor Dallow, you seconded it. Councillor Hughes?
4.
Councillor Hussain?
4.
Councillor Jones?
4.
Councillor Mabina?
4.
Councillor Miller?
4.
Councillor Rowe?
4.
Councillor Sims?
4.
See, that motion is carried. The application is approved.
The application is approved. Thank you very much. Next planning application is DC/20/64403. Proposed double-storey side and rear and single-storey rear extension, 46 Highland Road, Great Bar. No members have indicated that they have been lobbied on this application. John, do you have any updates to report on this application, please?
I do. Thank you, Chair. I've got several updates, members. First of all, as regards the recommendation, we're proposing an extra condition because Highways have asked if 3 parking spaces can be provided. The plans currently show 2 off-street spaces, so we're asking for an additional condition for an off-street parking plan to be provided. Once agreed with highway colleagues, then that parking provision to be retained. In addition to that, we have had further emails of objection from neighbouring residents. I mean, really, they've reiterated the concerns that are already mentioned in the officer's report, concerns about loss of light and privacy in particular, insufficient parking, and there's also an issue around the impact the extension could have on damp-proof coursing and foundations of adjoining property. That really is a building control matter, which, if approval was forthcoming, the extension would require building regulations approval. In addition to that, the objector just wanted to point out just to rewind, the application property is a semi-detached house. The property is attached to number 44 Highland Road. The objector just wanted to point out that property is apparently being bought by a relative of the applicant, and that's why we've no objections from that property. But that's as maybe. But the objector was quite adamant they wanted that raising. And then finally, we have got some photographs showing the site and its context as well, which I would call upon my colleague Carl just to share with members if they so wish. That's all from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do you wish to see the photographic evidence?
I think it would be a...
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just share those with you now. Okay. No.
Right, thank you, Carl.
So are you seeing, panel, are you seeing that, the rear of the property there?
Yes,
Yes,
we're all
Carl, yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll just scroll through so you get a flavour of what was taken at the time of the site visit. Obviously, I think this one shows the majority of the massing and scale across the side and rear of the property. Probably the best shot we've got of the development in progress.
Right, are there any questions for Carl at this stage?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Dallow?
Yeah. Usually we got the matching bricks, but they are freezing blocks. Can we accept like this?
We wouldn't normally know, Councillor. I think I'm not too sure without. Let me just check the recommendation. I'm not too sure without checking whether that's. I'm assuming that won't be the case. They'll either have to clad with
Carl,
exterior.
if I could just jump in
Sorry,
there.
sorry, John.
Councillor Dallow, yeah, the part of the recommendation is approval subject to the approval of external materials. It certainly wouldn't be left in such a raw state, just showing freeze block.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Any other questions?
Chair, we need to adjourn shortly. We need to adjourn for a minute. We're having some technical issues.
Members, we're having some technical issues, so we will be adjourning for a short time. Thank you.
Okay, we're live again.
We're live again now. Right.
Carry on, yeah. Okay, so Daly has his hand up again.
Right. I'm sorry for the delay. We think we've sorted our technical problems out and we can proceed. Councillor Dello, did you have a question?
No, my question was,
Sorry, you've
Turned your mic off.
You've turned your mic off.
there we are.
Right. Right, okay, so we can proceed.
Yeah.
Right, so John, the last item was John giving an update on the reports of the application. We don't have any objectors registered to speak. The applicant, Mr. Baines, will speak if required.
He's in the meeting. Mr. Baines is in the meeting.
Mr. Baines, do you wish to speak for 5 minutes?
Yeah, I don't mind. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, I don't mind.
Right, okay, you carry on then.
What do you want me to answer? I'll answer any questions that I've provided.
Right, committee will answer questions later, but you normally have 5 minutes to give a statement, if you so wish. If not, we'll carry on.
I'd say that my one neighbour is elderly and she's 90 years old, and that's on my right hand side if you're looking at the property from the outside. And it's been about 6 weeks since we've stopped working on the property, and I would like to get it finished as quick as possible because it's causing her health problems. Me and her have a good relationship at the moment, and I'd rather not give her any more stress of having to look at that house in the state that it's in due to so many other people complaining apart from her complaining at the moment. And being on my right and left neighbour not complaining at the moment, and I don't see anybody else on the road having much issues with lighting or inconveniences. It's just causing aggravation to a 90-year-old who doesn't need to be going through this stress, because I did give her a completion date of December, and before Christmas the whole property was finished. With all of this going on and whatnot, it's just delayed everything. So I'd just like to get back to work as soon as possible. I'm happy to deal with any issues you have got. Like I spoke to Anjan Chowdhury, is the one who's dealing with everything, and I amended everything you told me to amend. And the outside of the property will be rendered from the back. The front is done with the old brick. And I've got plenty of experience to get the job finished, and I've done in compliance with everything that the planning officer has said so far. And in terms of parking, I've definitely got 3 car parking spaces because I've got an 11 metre by 11 metre driveway. So I don't see how I can't get 3 cars on that car parking space. But if you do want to send somebody else out, confirm that you can do. Other than that, I haven't got much to say. I just want to get on with working.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Baines.
The planning officer Anjan Day's got his hand up.
Sorry, which planning officer?
Anjan Day. And John also has his hand up.
Right, planning officers.
Chair, can I come in there? Can I come in? Because I know the question, I know the point Anjan's going to make. I was reading the amendments, and strictly speaking, it's not an issue to concern ourselves. But Anjan has just clarified that it's not the applicant's relative that was buying number 44. It was a relative of the objector. But as I say, whoever is owning the property, it's not a planning related matter in itself.
Right. Okay, John, thanks for clarifying that.
Councillor Jones wants to ask a question.
Councillor Jones, you have a question?
Yeah, just a question to Mr. Baines. Is the 90-year-old lady at number 50, which would be right opposite you, and they're not objecting?
It's on my right hand side, so yeah, I think so.
Okay, so that's all I needed to know.
John, I just have one question. From the photographs, it looks as though the extension is taking up quite a lot of the land. Is it still, when it's completed, within the 14-metre rule?
Chair, Chair. Before I answer your question, can I just clarify the question that Councillor Jones asked regarding number 50? Picking up on what Mr. Baines says, the property immediately to his right is actually number 48, not number 50. It's number 48. That's the one immediately to his right. In answer to your question, it is a big extension. But we feel that because the property has quite a large garden, it's almost on the end of at the top end of the cul-de-sac, and the garden does sort of extend outwards, not only back towards, I think, properties at the rear in Wilderness Lane, but also it sort of extends widthwise as well the further you go into it. So it is quite a sizable garden, and it certainly would meet all our separation distances. The only slight concern that the case officer raised was in fact regarding the proposed single-storey extension. This single-storey extension would actually be on the boundary with the other adjoining semi-detached property, number 44, and as you know, members, we use a 45-degree guideline to see whether a proposed extension would detract from the light and look of a property next door. In this instance, the single-storey element just transgresses the 45-degree guideline. It is a guideline, and the reason why we're satisfied in setting the guideline aside in this particular instance was because number 44 has a through lounge. It's an open plan arrangement inside, so therefore it has another source of light from the front as well. So we're fairly comfortable that light and outlook to the main rooms there is not compromised. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any further questions from the committee? In that case, then, may I have a member of the committee for a motion, please? Committee?
Councillor Heathercombe.
Councillor Heathercombe.
Hello, yes, I move that we approve the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Dallow. I'll now hand over to Democratic Services to take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is that planning permission is granted subject to the approval of external materials and implementation thereafter, and all first floor windows in the eastern side elevation being obscure glazed and retained as such. Chair, are you voting for, against or abstaining? For.
Stephanie, sorry to interrupt there. As part of the recommendation you're reading, there was the extra condition regarding a supplementary off-street parking plan to create the 3 parking spaces as well. We need that added to the recommendation, please.
Thanks, John. Councillor Heathercombe and Councillor Dallow, are you okay with that?
Yes, that's fine, Steph, thank you.
Okay, carry on. Councillor Ahmed, are you voting for, against or abstaining?
For.
Councillor Allen?
For.
Councillor Sharon Davis? Thank you. Councillor Dallows for. Councillor Pamela Hughes, for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain?
For.
Councillor Jones?
For.
Councillor Mabina?
For.
Councillor Miller?
For.
Councillor Rouse?
For.
And Councillor Sims?
For.
Thank you, Chair. That recommendation is approved with the 3 conditions.
Right, Mr. Baines, their application has been approved for you with the 3 additional conditions. Thank you very much for attending. Item 6, planning application DC/20/64405. Proposed single-storey, 2-storey side extension, 59 Hems Crescent, Great Bar. No members have indicated that they have been lobbied on this application. John, do you have any updates to report on this application?
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing to add to the recommendation. It is still one of approval, subject to the subsequent approval of external materials. Thank you.
Right, thank you. As no objectors have registered to speak, we have the applicant, Mr. Priest, and his agent, Mr. Booth, registered to speak if required. Do you wish to speak, Mr. Priest?
He's got his hand up, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's unusual being addressed to as Mr. in these contexts, but there we are. May I take my up to 5 minutes, Chair? Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. I won't take all the 5 minutes. I just wanted to give a brief overview. This application is before you members, as you know. I am a sitting member of the council, and therefore any application made by a sitting member must be determined by the committee. The application itself is pretty self-explanatory. It is a 2-storey side extension of the property which I own and live in. That is the address that's been stated. There have been no objections according to the attached officer's report, and the proposal is in line with all local planning guidance and policy. And that is all I have to add at the moment. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. My agent, as you stated, Chair, is on the call. If any questions from members are more of a technical nature, I may well ask him to answer on my behalf. But I'm more than happy to take questions, Chair. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Priest. Do any members of the committee have any questions? No, Chair. Right, the committee will now move to debate the application. Any further comments? No,
Councillor Allen has his hand.
Councillor Allen?
You're on mute, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can say much about this application. I'd like to move the recommendation as laid out in the papers.
Right,
I'll second that, Chair.
It's Councillor Overcombe. I'll now hand over to Democratic Services to take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is that planning permission is granted subject to external materials matching the existing property. Chair, are you voting for, against or abstaining?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hovican is for. Councillor Ahmed?
For.
Councillor Allen moved it. Councillor Sharon Davis?
For.
Oh, yes, we heard you that time. Thank you. Councillor Dallow? Councillor Dallow, you're on mute. You're still on. I'll come back to you, Councillor Dallow. Councillor Hughes?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain? Councillor Jones?
For.
Councillor Mabina?
For.
Councillor Miller,
4,
Councillor Rouse,
4,
Councillor Sims,
4,
and Councillor Dallow.
4.
Thank you. That application is approved, Chair.
Thank you. Your application has been approved, Councillor Priest, so thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Could I just add to Liam? Liam, I'm looking on Google Maps at your front yard, and he's fixed those slabs yet.
I think that might be an old image. The garden looks a bit different now.
No
Right.
problem. No problem.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Right, agenda item 8. Applications determined under powers delegated to the Director of Regeneration and Growth. This report is for noting and sets out the decisions taken by officers since the committee last met, under the delegated powers set out within the Council's constitution. And yet again, my congratulations go to all the officers for doing a sterling job. Agenda item 9, decisions of the Planning Inspectorate. This report is for noting and informs the committee of the outcomes of appeals that have been made to the Planning Inspectorate by applicants who were unhappy with the committee's decision to refuse planning permission. And at that, I'll bring the meeting to a close, and thank you for all attending and all your contributions.
Councillor Dallow has his hand up,
Chair,
Chair.
before you close the meeting,
Yes, Councillor Dallow.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
He's put himself on mute again.
You put yourself on mute again, Councillor Dallow.
Yes?
Yes, we can hear you now.
No, he's on mute again.
No, you're on mute again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
The application which I said that declared interested, not interested, should be, I was lobbied. Sorry. So I just want to clear that. Okay.
Okay, I'll get Stephanie to amend that for you.
We didn't consider that application tonight, Councillor, so you can declare it when it's back
Yeah,
on the
you can
agenda.
declare it at the next meeting. Okay. Right, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all again next month.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank you.
all. Good night.
Good night.